Generating traffic and sales can be a challenge for online merchants. But selling on the Walmart Marketplace puts your products in front of millions of customers who shop on Walmart.com. And right now, sellers who join Walmart Marketplace can save up to 50% on referral and fulfillment fees for the first 90 days. So get started today. Head over to marketplace.walmart.com/savings. That's marketplace.walmart.com/savings.
Welcome to E-Commerce Conversations, a podcast by Practical E-Commerce.
What's going on, Internet? Eric Van Holtz here, back again with another amazing e-commerce conversations. Hope all is going well on the other side of the internet. On the other side of the world, I got Kat McKinnon.
I suppose I have to say the obligatory g'day, don't I, when you say that?
We can talk about putting shrimp on the Barbie.
Yeah, exactly.
She's with CopySmiths, the founder, right?
Yeah.
And she always blows my mind. She's also a fellow ECFer, E-Commerce Fuel forum member, put on by Andrew Udarian. We've talked about it previously on the show. We've met up a few times over the years. She takes the time to fly into the States and is always for a good chuckle. Tell everyone what's going on at CopySmiths nowadays.
Well, it's a really new business. For years and years and years, I've actually run an online marketing business where I was involved in PPC, doing Google AdWords, marketing campaigns, advertising on LinkedIn, all of this sort of stuff, and maintaining people's websites. And one of the things that I really loved doing and we got really good at was the blogging side of things. So we offered a full service agency, but we were producing for our clients, hundreds of blog articles every month. And we got a lot of traction. And so, it just became successful. And I sort of, now that I'm a little bit older and wiser, I sort of realized rather than trying to sort of create a business out of nothing, it's sort of, go where people want you to go, offer the service that people ask you for. And so in March, we actually lost all of our clients. So our agency basically shut down. I had to lay off people and, put people in furlough. And we lost all of our clients because of coronavirus and because they had no budgets to spend, because they couldn't run their businesses because of the particular industry they were in. And I thought, my God, what am I going to do? And so I literally just turned around and said, right, this is what I love doing and it's what I can do. And so we've now, in the last, I think what must be like 6 or 7 months now, we've built it to be this probably, I want to say maybe 25 writers, and there's a support team of maybe 4 or 5 people, but we've managed to retrain the existing staff that we had. We had to still let go of a few people who are, specialists in PPC, but we've retrained and now we've got, I think, maybe 30 clients. And it's absolutely breakneck speed. It's a little bit out of control because we're just moving so fast. But yeah, it's like, I'm sort of astonished that I've been able to do it. It's like I sort of was sitting there. I remember sitting there at one point. And even when I met you back in San Antonio, I was sitting there thinking, oh, wow, I've got nothing. I've got no business. And here I am. What am I going to do? And, the e-commerce fuel community is incredibly supportive. And I had conversations and people would just say, go for it, like just do it. And so I have. And yeah, I sort of sit here and I just pinch myself and go, wow, I actually managed to get to work and make it happen. So that's what's going on, is I'm just building that at the moment.
Are you going after different clientele this time? Are you focusing on e-commerce or what are you focusing on?
Yeah, most of our clients are e-commerce, but we have a lot of affiliate websites as well. So our clients tend to either be, we've got 3 types of clients. They tend to either be e-commerce sites. So we write for giftpens.com. We write for twohoundsdesign.com. So we write for pet collars and we write for pens, and we'll write e-commerce related sort of articles for them. So, what's the best gift pen for your dad for Father's Day? And, what's a martingale collar for Two Hounds? And so we'll often answer a lot of those related questions, those frequently asked questions in the Google search results for the e-commerce clients. But then we also have agencies who we white label for. They'll have e-commerce clients or just regular, service businesses. And then we've also got a lot of bloggers because, creating content, as you well know as well, it's hard. It's really hard. So we fill in the gaps for a lot of bloggers. So we've got quite a few large bloggers in different niches that we create a lot of content for, and search engine sort of friendly content for them.
Do you think SEO is dead, or has it changed so much that it's still possible to get traction, or how are people responding to SEO?
SEO is far from dead. I just think everyone's overcomplicated it. So the thing that we do is actually super, super, super simple. We answer people's questions. So if someone says, what is a martingale collar? We just write an article that answers that question. And we just do all the basics. We put a checklist in so people can very easily read what the answer is. And we'll put a quotation in or some social proof that says, well, this person really enjoyed this martingale collar because it helped them with their dog. And we'll put in, well, what's the price of it? What's the average price of it? What's the length of it? What's the dimensions of a martingale collar? How do you use it? And so we just provide good content. And we, of course, we write really well, and we put in authority links out to someone who's, a manufacturer of martingale collars to sort of put in the dimensions. And then we link to another article within the same blog about, well, how to fit it to your dog, for example. So we literally follow all the best practices, which, all the SEO universe has been talking about and discussing and debating for 15 years. We just have this long list and we just write to that list and make sure it's good quality. And so it definitely works. We had a client, this is maybe 2 years ago now, and this is where it sort of ticked, like this was my epiphany when I realised, oh, wow, this actually works, was they had 800 unique visitors to their website. They're an app. They had 800 unique visitors a month. And I think last month they probably had 150,000, and 145,000 of that is visitors from the search engines, and it's to the content that we wrote. And it took maybe 15 months for them to get to that point just with this content that we wrote. So when I see things like that, I know it works. It totally works, but it takes time. So it takes about 3 months for the search engines, or Google in particular, to actually find the content. And all my SEO friends agree with that. It's about 3 months after we've actually optimized for an article. You've got to be patient, and you have to produce a fair bit of it. So people sort of always say to me, how much content? And, of course, it's very self-serving because the more content we produce, the more we get paid. But I know for a fact that the most successful projects that we've done, we will publish between 20 and 50 articles a month for that client. And we only do it for a year, and it just takes off. And it just keeps going. It keeps giving. So I've just seen it time and time again. So SEO is not dead. It's just everyone, I think, has overcomplicated it. They are looking for a magic pill. It's just right for the reader, right for your customer, and write regularly and write often, and just keep doing it, and then have loads of patience. And it works. It works every time.
You're kind of killing me here because I had a whole bunch of questions I was going to ask you, and you answered all of them.
Oh, great. Oh, good. Interview over. Shortest one ever.
No, I was going to ask, how many articles do you need to be doing? You nailed that, 20 to 50 a month. How long it takes, 15 months to get there, 3 months to get noticed. Maybe a little more granular. And of course, I know the answer is always going to be it depends. But how long do these articles need to be? What kind of things do they need to include? What are some of those best practices that you think are relevant?
So there are certain tools that we use to get the exact numbers. But for anyone else who's just doing it for themselves or who wants to hire a writer in-house, you just say to the writer, you need 1,200 words. You need between 1,000 and 1,500 words for a blog article. Definitely not 600. Avoid 800 unless you're literally just answering a short question like how to cook rice. But if it's how to, what is a martingale collar and how to fit it, then it's maybe 1,200, 1,400 words. So that's that. You need a heading that has the keyword in the heading. You need to have 3 to 4 subheadings, H2s. And then within those H2s, you need to have maybe 3 to 4 H3s total for the whole article. H3s are very important. With the H3s, try to answer a question that someone is asking on on Google, and try to include a keyword in them. Keep your paragraphs to 1 to 2 sentences, 3 sentences at the absolute most. If you've got more than 3 sentences in a paragraph, just chop off the last sentence and put another paragraph. Include 1 ordered list, 1 unordered list or bullet list. Include 1 quotation or social proof. Sally said that the martingale collar was the best she'd ever had. Include 1 of those per 1,000 words. So if you've got an article of 2,000 words, put 2 of them in. Put 2 authority links, so a link out to an authority source. Wikipedia, HuffPost, Business Insider, none of those are authority sources. You have to go to page 4 of Google to find an authority source who truly writes on it. those big publications like HuffPost are all just automated bots that just churn out generic stuff. What else? Never put your authority link in the top paragraph. Always have a link to either your product or to another blog article in the top third of your post, your article, and put at least 2 to 3 links to other articles or products in your blog post, but they have to be related. It has to be in the same universe. You can't link, frogs to trucks. You have to link frogs to tadpoles, for example. So always have it in the same universe. We call that a keyword cluster. Always ask for something at the end of the blog post, but really avoid using exclamation marks. So we see a lot of shop online today, exclamation mark. Just delete it. Just don't do it. Either get the person to just click through to another article or to a product page. It's really hard to get people to buy from a blog post. So that's the other thing that people get wrong is they think, well, why aren't I making money from my blog posts? It's not about that. Our best clients use blog posts to cookie their clients and to use them in retargeting campaigns. So you can cookie them, you can get that, get an audience, create an audience from your blog posts. And the other thing is, one more thing to include is tables. You can make a table out of thin air. You can literally just find something in the blog post, but make a table, and it should be no longer than 8 rows and no wider than maybe 3 or 4 columns at the most, but always have a table in there. And the things that people click on, links inside tables. So if you want to get someone over to a sales squeeze page or to a product page, the things that people click on is they do not click on your fancy CTA banner that you paid your graphic designer to do with the conversion, CRO, you've got a conversion rate optimization expert. They don't click on that sort of stuff as much as they'll click on a link in a table. They will click on an animated GIF that's flashing. They will click on an image. They will click on, we did a test a long time ago. They click on the word click and click here. So you can literally put at the end of your blog post, if you'd like to know more about this product, click here. And people click on click here. So they'll tend to avoid buttons and they'll tend to avoid the sales path. That's our experience. But again, CROs all over the world will instantly disagree with me, no doubt. But, everyone's got their own experience. So was that granular enough?
Yeah, no, I mean, that's exactly.
We could make a checklist out of that.
Well, I was writing down all the notes too. I'm like, all right, my copywriter, here you go. A couple things that I remember in our conversation back in the day is you talked about essentially writing similar articles, but phrasing it differently or having different questions. Is that something that you're still doing or you recommend or?
Yeah, definitely. We will, for our larger clients, again, who just, a bit more serious. When I say serious, they know that content works for them. So just take a blogger, for example. They know that content works for them. So we might write on, I'm trying to think of an example, San Marzano tomatoes is a very particular type of tomatoes. We will write 10 articles on San Marzano tomatoes, and we will write one on how to grow them, how to use them in a patio, how to use San Marzano tomatoes for health. We will literally find the 10 top ways to grow San Marzano tomatoes in pots, the 10 top ways to grow them in a patio, the 10 top ways to grow them in your garden, how to cultivate them, how to keep pests away from them. We will literally create 10 different articles on that one keyword, because what we found is that Google will just pick one. We have the same process. We produce the same quality. There's the same volume for it. There's the same keyword difficulty for it. But Google sometimes it just doesn't pick up an article. And so what we worked out was we write 10 articles on that keyword, and at least 2 or 3 of them will get picked up by Google. And then we're able to get into the top 10 with one of those. And then we're able to get in the 20th position with another article and maybe the 17th position with a third article, and then everything else is buried, never sees the light of day. But because the client is very particular about ranking for that keyword, you can't just write one article and just be the absolute best at that particular topic when it's something as niche as like San Marzano tomatoes. You have to write 10.
You don't think there's any kind of cannibalization concerns, or Google just doesn't know which one to focus on, so it sends none of them, or rather than kind of one?
I think Google has this huge capacity. I think our tiny little brains can't even begin to understand, how much Google actually crawls the web. Billions of pages, and there's so many more people in the world than we think, and so many more web pages in the world that we think, than our little universe. And so I think that Google has a very high tolerance, the algorithm has a very high tolerance for indexing content. And so there's always these, new rules coming out of Google, like, you've got to put the keyword here, or you've got to do this or whatever. And I sort of think there's millions of websites that have been created by people who aren't SEO experts. And Google has to have a very high tolerance for all of those websites, for all the amateurs, all the hobbyists out there, because sometimes those amateurs and those hobbyists get that top position because they're just writing good content. And so Google has this very high tolerance. And so I think that it's just constantly looking for content, and it just picks. At some point, it just picks based on an algorithm. It picks that content. And so I feel like if we've got 10 articles out there, it's going to pick one of them, more likely than just one little special unique snowflake that we put out there.
Now, so we're creating all this content. Let's talk about like the authority of the website and how important that is to getting the content shown as well. I mean, like, it seems like if you're just creating content, you're not doing any kind of link building, right? And then all of a sudden, like, how is your website going to get any kind of authority?
Yeah, it takes a long time. And unfortunately, Google at the moment is very clearly preferencing known brands. So even though, websites like HuffPost can just churn out mindless, rubbish, they will just automatically dominate that top position. And, they have that authority because they can grab those backlinks. There's a bit of chatter in the SEO universe at the moment that backlinks are very important and getting backlinks. So there's a thing called digital PR, which is just getting press, like it's, offline old world. It was just getting press mentions. So there's, what is it called? There's, in Australia, there's Source Bottle, and over there's, what's the other one called where you've got a story for the journalists and they go and pick it up. I'll have to try and remember what it is.
Haro? Is that what you're talking about? HARO?
Yeah, that one as well. So, you can get very good links from those types of channels. But again, Google has a very high tolerance for websites that don't have a lot of links. As long as you make it easy to crawl and you're writing for the reader, it does get traction. It just takes time. And people give up way too soon with content. They, they sort of do 10 podcasts and then stop, or 20 YouTube videos and then they stop, or 10 blog articles and then they stop. But Google's just wanting more and more. So I think the authority of a website is important. But what I was trying to say before is there's so much traffic that if you're on the third page, it's still okay. You're still getting decent traffic as long as you go for those long tail keywords and you just cover all the keywords in your universe.
Yes, I agree with you. I love doing organic content. I mean, we do it on YouTube. We do it on a blog. We've moved to probably an article a week, or maybe an article every other week is kind of what we're doing nowadays. So we've kind of gone with like a little more in-depth content. And I don't know. I think it's kind of interesting, the different strategies to have. One thing I wanted to talk about is the strategy for creating headlines. Have you any take on this? I think of it from a YouTube perspective, and everything that drives clicks on YouTube is your headline and your thumbnail. And it's almost like, how do I create a title that gets people to click? Is that the same strategy you have for headlines, or is it just more of like get the keywords in there?
We don't concentrate so much on the headlines because we're concentrating on the keyword, but the headlines are very, very important. There are tools that we can use to test headlines and in terms of the meta description and the meta title, the title tag in articles in order to work out what people are clicking on. The data connects with, the Google Webmasters, the Search Console. So the titles are super, super important. I completely agree with that. It's just that most of the traffic that comes into a blog isn't necessarily predicated on the title in the search engine result. It's usually more important that you're actually just up in the search engine results page, because what people do is they'll go and open 10 articles, or they'll go and open 4 or 5 articles. So a YouTube video, you can only watch one video at a time. Well, most humans. You can only just watch that one video. You've only got 2 eyeballs. Whereas the articles you open in multiple tabs and then you skim read. And so the first part of an article is very important, that the lead area is very important, that you sort of give an answer to what the person's seeking an answer for. And then you go into depth further down. You've sort of got to get them to, it's got to be sticky first. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, you want them to get in there because, as you said, you build that pipeline, right? For remarketing, retargeting, you build the funnel. We've always used organic content as the least expensive acquisition. So you want to be as inexpensive as possible to get as many eyeballs as possible. And then you just kind of filter it down from there.
Absolutely.
So as long as you're getting people to the website and they're spending some kind of time on the website, then that will be a good start for you. You've mentioned tools a few times. You talked about Search Console. What other tools are in your tool belt?
One of the main tools we use is obviously Ahrefs, just because we find that it's got the coverage for keywords and it gives us, good data on what competitors are ranking for. There's a really great tool in Ahrefs called the Content Gap, and you basically plug in your website and you go and find, it's better with about 7 to 8 competitors in there, and you can then filter it to say, look, I want a cross-section of 3, at least 3 or 4 or 5 websites to rank for this. What am I not ranking for? And it'll often show that your, let's say, 5 competitors are all ranking for a keyword in the top 100 that you've just never even written about. And that's a low-hanging fruit. So it's a very easy way to say to your in-house writer or whoever, just go and find all the gaps. Go and find everything that my competitors are ranking for that is above, 3,000 monthly volume searches, and just go and write on those. So the Content Gap in Ahrefs is really great. We use that all the time. And then we've got another tool. There's 2 tools in the market at the moment that are really quite good. There's a tool called Page Optimizer Pro, and then there's another one called Surfer SEO. And we used Page Optimizer Pro for a little while, but the interface, the GUI, was very, very difficult. Page Optimizer Pro allows us to, and both tools, allow us to choose a keyword. Let's just say martingale collar, just to stick with the theme. You put that in, and then it says what all the keywords in the universe are for that particular keyword, what you need to write on. And you can choose the 10 ranking competitors. And so it does an analysis and says, based on these 10 competitors, you need to write 1,356 words, and you need to include these 73 keywords, and you need to include these 4 subheadings. So it gets quite specific. That's what Surfer SEO does, whereas Page Optimizer Pro does exactly the same. It will tell you all the keywords you need to use and the subheadings and how many words you need to write to, but it will actually tell you where the keyword needs to be positioned. Like, does it need to be in the second paragraph or the third paragraph? We stopped using Page Optimizer Pro just because the interface, the GUI, was just so difficult that our writers weren't able to just get on with the job of writing. And so it led to more confusion, that we didn't end up with a good result for the reader. So we use Surfer SEO, and those guys are developing it constantly. They seem to be making quite a few changes to it to improve it all the time. And I know a few SEOs who have invested in the company and they use it. And so I think that they're pretty good guys. So I think that they're on the right track. But that's another tool that we use, Surfer SEO, and it integrates with Google Docs. So you can literally just give a Google Doc to your writer and they just write as per normal. But there's a little side panel down the right that talks about, that gives you Surfer SEO information. So that's another really great tool.
Sweet. Obviously, you're CopySmiths. You guys are doing content for your clients. How many clients have this capabilities in-house, and how many are just working through agencies like you? Or talk about that decision when you need to make of going in-house or keeping it.
So what happens is, the reason why most people come to us, and this is perfect for us as well, is they've had a bash at it themselves. So they have had an in-house writer, but what they find is that they can't produce the volume, or the writer just disappears or goes on holiday or gets sick or whatever might happen. And so they don't get that consistency. And so it's a problem that just keeps cropping up for them all the time, that they think, oh gosh, I've really got this strategy that I really want to do content, but it's just so flaky because people come and go. Writing's a creative pursuit and people get burnt out by it. So they'll often find that their in-house team doesn't want to just keep writing articles every single day. And to produce that volume, you have to have... So if you wanted to produce a volume of 20 articles a month, you would probably have to have around 10 to 15 writers in your team. And because they're not full-time, that's the other mistake people make, is they'll hire a writer full-time and they'll get 3 articles a week because it's just tiring and people can't, creatively produce to a high, level every single time. So the writers tend to then be kind of part-time in your team, even though you're paying them full-time. And so people will often get to that point where they've worked out it's too difficult to manage a larger team because they've got bigger needs to produce content. They'll often just get frustrated with the lack of growth, skill growth with their in-house team. Because, we're always writing for different clients, we're learning a lot. The feedback we get to see our stuff. And some of our clients share out their Google Analytics with us. So we get to see the effect of new techniques that we might use. and then we just roll it out. Whereas to get that kind of iteration, to get that kind of change within your own organisation, the writers are just flat out writing. They don't get to have that space necessarily to develop their skill set and to learn and get feedback from the search engines and readers and that sort of stuff. So I think that most people will hire a writer on Fiverr or Upwork or one of the content mills. They do that for a little while and then they find they've just got to spend too much time managing it and then they can't get the volume. It's very difficult to scale it up. So that's the tipping point, I think. And another thing that's a tipping point for people is that we write in between the gaps for quite a few people. So we've got some clients that are experts, absolute genius experts in their domain, and they will write one incredible blog article a month on their expertise. And we fill in all the keyword gaps around it by writing 10 to 20 articles. So let's say your domain is dog training. They might write one incredible piece about how this very particular technique that they use of turning left on their heel, 45 degrees with a slight click gets the reaction that they want from a dog. Whereas we will go and write how to train a dog, do you use treats? All those top of the funnel type keywords. So we will bring in the top of the funnel audience who then goes through to that authority piece with the expert and creates that engagement with that expert's piece. So we'll often do that as well. People just get tired of constantly trying to write. They know they need 10 articles a month, but they can really only do one because they're just busy. And so we'll fill in the other 9. So those are these sort of keyword gaps that we do, and we sort of call it fodder. We fill in the fodder. We fill in all the gaps in between. So that's another way where people decide to choose to work with us.
I assume you charge per word. Is that correct?
No. Well, sometimes for some clients we do. Some clients that really need, very particular type of content, we'll charge between 15 cents and 20 cents per word, or we'll charge per article. We charge $180 per article because, again, we write to what the search engines say they want. So if it's 1,200 words, that's what we do. If it's 800 words, that's what we do. If it's 1,800 words, that's what we do. It's always $180 just because we find that's very straightforward for people to understand. But we do sell it in batches because that's the other thing. We don't just tend to write one article for someone. It takes us too long to gear up to put them into our system to do just one article.
So the entrepreneur in me just did the quick math. So at $180 an article, you need 20 articles a month. Do that for 15 months, and it's going to be a $50,000, $55,000 investment into your blog, and then you're driving 150,000 visitors a month to your website that you no longer have to pay for, right? It's just
correct. Yeah, and it just keeps going and going and going and going forever.
Will you ever start to taper the amount of content you're going, or do you ever feel like there's a saturation point where you can't produce any more content?
What we do at that point is we then go back and optimize articles. So quite often we've got some clients who've got good content, but it's just never been optimized for the search engines. So there's no bullet list, there's no quotations, there's no table data, or it's just there's no internal linking. So we'll often go through and just take their content and just re-optimize it, and then it moves up. And what happens is when we do that, if an article's in, let's say, 14th position, it'll move to 7th or 6th or 5th position. And if it's in 80th position, we can get it into the 20th position. So we'll take that exact same article, keep the same URL, punch a whole bunch more value into the article. And so we find that happens because, the techniques do change over time. And the internet's not that old yet. Like, we haven't run out of things to write about yet.
The last thing I want to talk about is you clearly understand not just writing content, which I think is kind of like the world of, like you said, the Fivers. They know how to write things. You understand how to drive people to websites. When you're working with clients, how much of that burden is on you, the agency at CopySmiths, and how much of it is on the client to say, like, here, I need this keyword or I need that keyword, or you going to them with suggestions for what to write about?
Yeah, so that's actually quite funny. We've got this one new client who has literally described himself as a psychopath, because I said to him, we can choose the keywords for you. And he's like, no, I'm a psychopath about my keywords. And so some of the clients, they know SEO and they know their way of SEO, and they have a very particular vision of what they think is the search engines want. Because we're all making it up, because, the algorithm's so complicated and, whatever. We're all making it up, really, as we go along. And so there are some people who are very, very particular about exactly what they want. And one of our clients will even provide us with the structure of the article right down to the subheadings and to tell us what they want in those sections, because they know SEO and they want it a very particular way. Whereas we've got some other clients that it's a set and forget service, because we publish. This is the other thing we do that a lot of people don't, is we publish for you. So one of our clients is a very large gardening blog, and we probably publish hundreds of articles for them now. And we only talk to them once a month to say, hey, how are you going? This is what we're doing. This is what we're up to. And he just goes, yep, no worries. Off you go. Knock yourselves out. Talk to you next month. So it just depends on the client. We can some clients come to us and test us out with 1 or 2 articles just to sort of make sure that we can do what we say we can do. And then we just say, here are the next 10 keywords that we think you should go for. Here's the content gap. This is why. I'll often do screencasts and just show them and say, look, this is what the report says in Ahrefs. This is the logic behind it. Again, people get into a lot more of the science than we do. We say, here are 10 ideas that you haven't written about, that there's a gap. Do you want us to write about them? And people go, yeah, because they recognize it's a long-term game. And a lot of the bloggers, they make a lot of affiliate income from the work we do. So it doesn't bother them that we go and pick, 10 new keywords, because they recognize they have to produce the content. And as long as we're not writing about some wildly different topic, they're very happy for us to choose a keyword. So I suppose that's one of those, it depends on the person. If you're a psychopath SEO who just thinks that you know exactly how Google works, then we just go, yeah, sure, give us the keywords. And, we even have some clients who provide us with their Surfer SEO doc URLs. So they have full control over everything and we just write for them. And then there's others that just say, yeah, just chat to me in a month and tell me what you're up to. Send me an invoice and off we go. We just tick along and publish for them.
Sweet. Where can people learn more about you? Where can people reach out to you?
CopySmiths.com is the website, and there's the pricing's on there. There's some examples of our older work on there. We just haven't had time recently to update everything because, again, we're just so smashed with sort of talking to new customers. I think because there's so much traffic on the internet now, a lot more maybe with people being at home and lockdowns and that sort of thing. There's so much more traffic around and people are seeing it on their websites and, grabbing it from the content point of view. I'm grabbing that engagement from, articles. So, yeah, CopySmiths.com's got examples of our work and it's got a little bit of information about us, but yeah, that's about it, really. And just get in touch with us, because that's the main thing. If you just get in touch with us, we have a look at your website, we start a conversation, we just say, we can do this for you, or no, what you've got is too complex, or, we probably can't work with that, or because we're really good at one thing. So people will often ask us, can you do this or this or that? And we go, no, we can't do that. We are really, really, really good at writing blog posts. That's the one thing. We can do product comparisons, we can do buyer's guides, all of that sort of stuff as well. But the one thing that we absolutely smash it out of the park with is just blog posts. So sometimes people will say to us, can you write my metadata? And we'll go, we can, but it's not something that is like the best amazing value that you get from us.
Yeah. You're not on Twitter. You're an ECFer, right?
Yeah. E-commerce fuel. Yeah. But I'm on LinkedIn.
Yeah. I wrote a million notes that I want to steal and pass on to my team.
Hey, thank you so much for having me on. So I just, it's like I get to talk for, 30 minutes about my absolute favorite topic. And so it's almost like therapy.
Well, I could probably talk to another hour and a half about this. So, and I know there's a lot. Maybe we'll have you come back on the show to kind of talk about some other interesting things you're doing in terms of like making the world a better place.
Yeah, well, that's the other thing. We're trying that at the moment.
Yeah, and that's a story worth telling. So we'll get you back on the show. I appreciate your time. Hopefully our listeners learned as much as I learned and are inspired to go about creating some amazing content. As always, thanks for listening. Cheers. Keep on growing.